So what's new for this year, which is why we're all here today, is Go Compete. It's all about multiplayer this year. So new game modes, co-op championship, compete through an online season with a friend. You can save out your practice sessions. That's kind of got two different angles. You can race against someone who's not quite as competitive as you, and then you're both working together in harmony for the championship. Or you can compete with someone who's actually much like an equal, and then you're competing for the parts, and you do get those moments. Not bad for a number 2 driver. You know, it's much more serious. You stop sharing your car setup information, all those type of things, and it really starts to get quite almost co-op going into rivals towards the end of the season. That's all in addition to split screen, so now you can play on the same console in the same room. Full grids this year, full 24 car grids, 16 human players, 8 AI. Multiplayer objectives, so that's really what we felt last year was sometimes people will go into lobbies and find out the best cars would go on and then dip back out, or maybe the guys were too good. But this year the game evaluates how good you are as a driver, your driver rank, what car you've got, and your grid position. It will give you an expected finishing position. Anything you do above that will be positive XP. Anything you do below is negative. So it's not always if you're the best driver rank, do you pick the best car, because then you're expected to win, and actually there's no benefit from winning because you're expected to win. So you might find that the better drivers end up driving the slower cars in order to boost their ranks.
Fantastic. And of course, new season, new cars, new rules. DRS and KERS, tell us a bit more about how that works this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's all tailor-made for games. It's almost like we've had a word with Bernie and said, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea? So KERS Turbo Boost, 10% additional power. You can use it any point during the lap you want. So you can use it really as a defensive tool to defend against the guy behind you, as attacking. You can do it in little dribs and drabs or all in one go. Drag reduction system is effectively stalls a rear wing, makes you faster down the straights. So you can use that anywhere in practice qualifying, although it's not advisable through the corners because you just spin off. But in the race itself, it's reserved for certain conditions, so you have to be close enough to the car in front. It's not available for the first couple of laps or at certain points during the race. So that's all really, really cool. And obviously the Pirelli tyres as well. That was the big unknown going into this season. Sounds weird for people who don't know a lot about F1 that a new tyre manufacturer has really spiced it up, but the difference in the two compounds is really much bigger this year. So your option tyres, they're super fast. They've got 2 or 3 golden laps, and their tyre life really drops down. So you really need to maximise those tyres and then try and eke out the race length to try before you make your pit stop. Or you've got the prime tyre, which you need to heat them up. So you know the guys on option tyres are going to scamper away from you if they're equal performance or in equal equipment. But once you do get the kind of peak, they're never going to be at the same level of grip as the options, but they've got a much slower tail off life. So as long as you're pegging the gap to the guy in front, you know that you've got him covered when the pit stops happen.
You're going to get those fall off the cliff moments occasionally happening.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've really improved it when the weather comes around as well. So a full downpour will come around now, and I think in F1 2010 it wasn't quite right. You could still sort of drive around half decently on some soft tyres. Not this year.
You've got a lot of feedback from the community from 2010, and still now we've got community people here today, and you've already had the community event. How important has that been, and what improvements have you made from their feedback?
It's so important, to be honest. I mean, we were, as developers, we were quite nervous. I think when there was talk of a launch event last March and people were playing the code, 6 months before? They don't do this in cinema. You wouldn't show people a film when it's still 6 months to be made. But the benefit from it, once you've set people's expectations as to exactly what they're going to experience that day and how far are you off, you get some invaluable feedback. So some of the on-screen elements, was it clear, was it not clear, those things are really good. And then not really telling them too much about the improvements to, say, the car handling or the AI, and all of a sudden they're coming and going, do you know what, I got a slide and I called it, or I was able to attack the curbs, or I felt the difference through the corners or under braking, or wow, aren't the AI faster this year, aren't they really super aggressive this year? And it's really, really good for us to hear, because you think you're on track but you're never quite sure. But it's really good when you haven't told anyone anything about the game and they're coming back with those comments.
And of course you've got the help again of Anthony Davison. You've also got help Gary Pappett as well, so their help is obviously invaluable with how the car handles and how the car reacts in real life as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of hours on their game, they probably spent less on this year's game than last year. But last year they would come in and it'd be like, oh, this is wrong, you need to rewrite this, and we'd have to go away for weeks or months and rewrite things. This year was a lot better. You'd have Anthony working on the Mercedes test driver simulator in the morning, and then he'd come up to us in the afternoon and be like, right guys, fire up Catalunya, I'm on the money, this is 5th gear, it's 150 miles an hour, blah blah blah. And even from our rough, where were we last year, we were like a second or so off the pace, but this year we've really been able to attack those fine details and get it exactly right this year.
And of course there's a lot of focus on the career mode with multiplayer, but the single player is getting better. And I've had Crofty ask me the same 4 or 5 things again, and Holly Samos being generally nice to me. How much more this year are we going to get into the life? As you said, we've got to go compete, but we've got to live the life as well.
Yeah, Live the Life really has had 2 areas of focus. I think one of the frustrations from last year was we had quite a few complicated systems in the game, but we weren't exposing them in the best way, which is massively frustrating from our point of view, because we've done 90% of the work and then kind of the last 10% didn't quite come together. So the 2 key areas are press clippings. So now your media interactions will get sensationalised and put in the media as you travel between events. So it might be that I'm slagging off a particular driver, or I'm eyeing up a route move to another team, or I'm stalling on contract negotiations, and you're seeing how the different personalities in the game, the team bosses, principals are beginning to take that information, and maybe you're like, oh, that's not quite what I meant. But also cinematic sequences. So last year it'd be like, oh, objective, finish 16th, you finished 15th, yay, well done. This year, if you finish in the top 3, you're going to get the press conference sequence. In multiplayer, you're going to see that. Even if you're not in it, you're going to be kind of watching jealously on. But if you do well in a Renault or a Force India, finishing the points, or get into Q2 in the Lotus, you're going to get Gareth sequence celebrating with your mechanics. If you crash out, you might stomp back to the pits and see your driver push the camera out of the way. So lots more visual feedback on, did I have a good race or did I not?
Fantastic. And a couple of quick fire ones for you. Save replay from Dirt 3, is that going to come up here and you have save replays and upload?
Unfortunately not, no. We store so much information in F1 2010 in terms of the track grip and levels and where all the other cars are and the crowds and the weather system that it's not able to get in for 2011.
Fantastic. Bahrain Grand Prix, is that going to see an appearance this year? I know it hasn't in real life.
It was one that was on the cards up until a few weeks ago, but unfortunately that's dropped out as well. We did look at it maybe just for Grand Prix mode or time trial, but there's a few question marks over sponsor placements and various other bits and pieces that we wanted to stay true to the F1 2011 season as well.
And last but not least, after the great Grand Prix in Canada last week, is the safety car going to appear?
Never say never. As with all of our game features, we really only release it when it's ready. So it's something we're looking at. You know, people have been screaming about it since the time we first got the license. I think that was the first comment I ever read, the safety car. So there are some licensing hurdles to overcome. There are also some prototypes. You know, ultimately, it's got to be fun. It can't have too much of an impact on the shorter races. There are various, you know, what happens if you try and mess it up or mess around or whatever. But we're looking to overcome them. If we can do it in time, then maybe it'll come in for 2011. If not, maybe for a future one.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, thank you very much.
2 laps to go, 2 laps. Brilliant, well done.